Tonight, Prime Crime Networks proudly presents to you The Game, where we get in the business of people who entice and exploit women and young girls to sell their bodies for money and bring it all back to them at the top of the morning. Welcome to Chicago, Illinois, where tonight we get into the business of a man who was pimping on a young lady who was murdered. And now the accused. Joseph Hasley was known in the Chicago area as a notorious pimp. He crossed paths with Desiree when she had run away from her grandparents' home and met a man who sold her to a sex trafficker for $250. Her sex trafficker, Joseph Hasley, housed Desiree Robinson and a few other women in a house in Chicago's South Side. She worked in the suburban near Midway Airport and Orland Park, occasionally working the downtown Chicago area as well. Her pimp posted her on the site Backpage.com, one of the largest online platforms for sex ads offering companions and escorts. Hasley listed Desiree under the name Nikki, claiming she was new in town and had no pimp. He drove her to meet with clients, sometimes up to 6 times per day, and provided her with clothing for her meetups. In their downtime, Hasley would often have sex with the 16-year-old himself. Based on the testimony of Hasley's co-defendant, he introduced the minor to Hasley, based on Hasley's giving him a finder's fee for bringing him women who wanted to make money. Witnesses also alleged that Hasley transported an adult woman through interstate commerce for the purposes of engaging her in sexual acts. Hasley took the women across state lines, and that he intended for them to engage in prostitution at the time of the trip. One victim testified that he drove her from Illinois to Indiana 3 times to set up dates. Her testimony was corroborated by posts on Backpage.com, featuring a photo and advertising her availability for dates in Indianapolis. She attested that the posts were made by Hasley. Hasley took full control of the women's lives. He monitored their activity, told them how to deal with customers, set their rates, posted their ads online, and even gave them new personas. Desiree became Nikki. While other high school age girls relaxed on Christmas break, Desiree worked for Hasley. When she finished with a customer, she would stand on curbs in the record-breaking cold, waiting for Hasley to pick her up. Hasley would often send Desiree on dates with older women. Some were starting to get suspicious because Desiree didn't act like your typical 18-year-old. When some of the women started to question the age of Desiree, Hasley would quickly shut her up and take her out of the environment so they couldn't ask her any more questions. On Christmas Eve, a man in a southern Chicago suburban named Antonio Rosales answered Desiree's ad like many before him. In the dark, freezing hours of early morning, Hasley dropped Desiree off in front of a house where she worked as a dancer for a weekend garage party. Rosales paid for sex with the teenage Desiree. A few hours after she left the garage party, Rosales asked for her to come back to the garage for another visit. Desiree entered the home for a second time as her pimp directed her to. As Desiree completes the sex act, Hasley falls asleep in his car. In the garage, the party had ended, and Antonio Rosales had asked for more time with Desiree, this time for free. When Desiree refused, Rosales beat Desiree, raped her, strangled her, and slit her throat. Rosales then left, walked to Hasley's car on the street, woke him up by tapping on the window, and said, "Your friend will be out in a little while." Hasley had no idea that Rosales had just murdered Desiree, a.k.a. Nikki. Joseph Hasley would later be arrested, but first his co-defendant, Mr. Charles McPhee, was arrested for introducing Desiree, a.k.a. Nikki, to Mr. Hasley for $250. McPhee pled guilty to conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of a minor. The alleged customer and accused murderer, Antonio Rosales, was arrested by the Chicago Police Department and charged with murder in Cook County Criminal Court. In his own statement before sentencing, Hasley told the court he had no control over what happened to Desiree, a.k.a. Nikki, and he's truly sorry for what happened to her, and he asked forgiveness of the Robinson family. But nevertheless, Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman imposed a 32-year prison sentence on Mr. John Hasley for sex trafficking. Well, I guess Mr. Hasley's pimp days are over. And this concludes this episode of The Game. I'm your gracious host, Marlo, signing off here. And remember, pimping ain't easy, especially from behind a 6x6 wearing jail stripes. Until next time.